Hi, my name is Tengku Mia Zaara and this is my story, Enemy Pie. It should have been a perfect summer. My dad built me a treehouse in our backyard and I was on the best dance team in town. It should have been a perfect summer, but it wasn't. It was all good until Emily moved into the neighborhood. I did not like Emily. She had a party on a trampoline and I wasn't even invited. Emily was the one and only person on my enemy list. I never even had an enemy list before, but as soon as she came along, I needed one. I hung it up in my treehouse. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too, but he knew of a way to get rid of them. I asked him to tell me how. Tell you how? I'll show you how, he said. He pulled a very old recipe book off the kitchen shelf. Inside, there was a scrap of paper. Dad held it up. Enemy pie, he said. You may be wondering what is in enemy pie, but Dad said the recipe was so secret, he couldn't even tell me. I begged him to tell me something, anything. I will tell you this, he said. Enemy pie is the fastest way to get rid of enemies. I knew enemy pie was going to be awful. I tried to imagine how horrible it must smell. But when I was in the backyard, I smelled something really good. I went in to ask Dad what was wrong. Enemy pie should smell this good, but Dad was smart. If enemy pie smelled bad, your enemy would never eat it, he said. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to enemies? I asked Dad, but he wouldn't tell me a thing. But while the pie cooled, he filled me in on my job. There is one part of enemy pie that I can't do. In order for it to work, you need to spend a day with your enemy and be nice to her. It's not easy, but that's the only way the enemy pie can work. Are you sure you want to do this? Of course I was. It sounded horrible, but it was worth a try. I went to Emily's house and knocked on the door. When Emily opened the door, she seemed surprised. Can you play? I asked. She looked confused. I'll go ask my mum, she said. Then she came back with the shoes. We played on the trampoline for a while. Later, Emily's mom made us lunch. After lunch, we went over to my house. It was strange, but I was kind of having fun with my enemy. She almost seemed nice. When we went to my backyard, Emily noticed my treehouse. Can we go in it? She asked. I knew she was going to ask me that, but she was the top person, the only person on my enemy list, and enemies aren't allowed in my treehouse. But she did have me over for lunch, and she did let me play on the trampoline. She wasn't being a very good enemy. Okay, I said, but hold on. I climbed up ahead of her and tore the enemy list off the wall. Then we played games inside the treehouse until my dad called us down for dinner. Maybe Emily wasn't so bad after all. I was beginning to think that maybe we should just forget about enemy pie, but sure enough, after dinner, Dad brought out the pie. Dad, I said, it sure is nice having a new friend in the neighborhood. I was trying to tell him that Emily was no longer my enemy, but Dad only smiled. Dad dished up 3 plates with big pieces of pie. He passed one to me and one to Emily. It was at this point that I panicked. I didn't want Emily to eat any pie. She was my friend. I couldn't let her eat it. Emily, don't eat it. It's bad pie. Emily's fork stopped before reaching her mouth. I felt relieved. I had saved her life. If it's so bad, Emily asked, then why has your dad already eaten half of it? I turned to look at my dad. Sure enough, he was eating enemy pie. I sat there watching them eat enemy pie for a few seconds. It seemed safe enough, so I took a tiny taste. Oh my God, enemy pie was delicious. After dessert, Emily invited me over to play on a trampoline in the morning. She said she'd teach me how to flip. As for enemy pie, I still don't know how to make it. I still wonder if enemies really do hate it. But I don't know if I'll ever get an answer because I just lost my best enemy. The end. Thank you.